Hello, everyone. This is Sevilla. I love, and here we are on this channel, getting back to living and loving life again after a major life-altering loss, such as being widowed. Today, we're going to talk about the sudden loss of the widow and what that could mean for the individual trying to move forward. There's many different types of ways we can come to the loss of a spouse, but the immediate loss, when it is sudden and unexpected, whether it comes through violence or sudden death or an accident or acts of crime or an act of nature, any of these things can come on suddenly. And the shock and trauma that it brings to the individual is something that really needs special address. Now, I am a licensed therapist. I am a coach and a consultant and a spiritual guide for people. However, this is not clinical advice. This is my personal opinion on matters based on my personal understanding, also including my years of professional experience that inform my opinion.
Hold on, quick pause. People ask me all the time if I work with clients one on one. Yes, I do. I offer private coaching and consultation, and you can book with me anytime using the link in the description below. Now, back to the video.
Now, moving forward to that, the first thing that a widowed person is going to experience is a massive sense of shock and overwhelm. The initial feeling may be numbness. It may be completely losing their cool. I know when I first learned that my husband died, more cuss words came out of my mouth than I think have ever left my mouth in my lifetime. You don't know how you're going to respond or how you're going to react. And you may be wondering how people are looking at you, especially if you've had a very public loss. Now, sometimes when it's come as a big shock, right, a sudden loss like that, it could often be public because if there's a crime attached to it or something very sensational, or it's an act of nature, such as an animal or an avalanche or something, it's likely going to be in the news. And so that means that brings the widowed person into the public spotlight. Now, maybe if you're in a small community, it's a sudden loss. It's a shock to everyone else as well. So all eyes are on you. This brings an extra layer of difficulty to the widowed person because not only are they dealing with their own shock, their own horror, their own trauma, but they're dealing with that of everyone else as well. They have children or the community at large. And if it's a very public loss, like on a national scale, for example, the pressure exponentiates. And what is one to do with that experience? This mind blowing, earth shaking, soul rattling loss. There's going to be anger, just a sense of rage at whatever it was that took their life. There's going to be a sense of injustice. That's going to be that sense of, how could this happen to me? It may be that you ask yourself, why not me? I was that person. I asked myself, when my husband fell off his boat in the middle of the night out in rural Alaska, in the Aleutians, why not me? Makes me think I'm immune to this horrible thing happening. No, my husband was in a very high risk career. No, if you're married to a first responder, a police officer, somebody that's in the public eye, that's controversial, they're at risk. These are high risk careers. And so you live every day with the possibility that somebody could be gone. And even if they're an adventurer, they're always out, you know, climbing mountains or skiing down hills, hiking in the woods. These are high risk things that people do. And so when you live with this possibility that anything could take them at any time, there's also this sense that, oh my God, I knew this could happen. And that right there could bring a sense of guilt. Like, did I think this into existence? No, you didn't. You did not think this into existence. No matter what the purveyors of manifest your destiny people come from, you did not manifest this. What you did was you loved someone deeply, fully, truly, because you knew the risks that they took every day to do whatever it was that they did. Even if they were traveling and took adventurous travel trips, there's risk involved in that. There's things that you admired and loved about that person so deeply because of who they were, because of the risks that they took, because of the courage that they had to do what they did. My husband was one of the highest risk professions. Uh, That's what they call that TV show, The Deadliest Catch. It's true. You yourself were incredibly brave to love that person, knowing the risks that were involved in loving them. Anytime we marry our lives to someone else, what we do in the vow that we take is we quietly say to ourselves, one of these days, one of us is going to have to say goodbye to the other in death. I don't know if it's going to be you or if it's going to be me, but I am taking on that risk by marrying my life to you, saying that the risk that I'm taking right now is worth it. You are worth the risk, that I might have to live with the agony of the loss of you someday. That's how loving you, that's why it's so valuable. That's why you're so valuable, that I'm going to take that risk that just loving you implies. Now, everyone takes that silent vow when they marry someone. When you marry someone in a high risk career field or someone who lives a high risk lifestyle, you exponentiate that promise, silent promise that you make to them. Let me honor that in you. Let me honor your courage, your valiancy to stand up for love like that. And now that they're gone, don't you imagine for a moment that it's lost on them, that they don't know the sacrifice you made, because everyone's looking at the sacrifice they made, right? The sacrifice they made to serve in the role that they served in. You know, my late husband braved the sea every day in the most high risk career fields to feed the world. Officers, people in the political eye, people who are high risk adventurers, all of these people do this in service to others, to provide inspiration, to provide guidance, to provide safety and protection, to provide service to the heart, mind, soul, safety of the community, all of it. So everyone's looking at their sacrifice, but I want to look at yours, the one you made when you dedicated your life to love this person who served so selflessly, who adventured so courageously. You, because now you're the one standing and holding this basket of grief. How thick, heavy, and merciless it is now and will continue to be. And the question you ask yourself, is this ever going to get any better? And the answer is yes, it will. But my answer is also you probably won't be able to see that right now and to not fight against that. Don't fight the reality that you're living in now, which might feel like hell. It is in many aspects hell. So it feels like the opposite of everything you just had. Love, life, family, hope for the future, your way of life, your income, your family, everything that you understood yourself to be, your identity, instantly gone. You've had no chance to contemplate what it could be like truly to be without them, even though the fleeting thoughts may have crossed your mind because of how they live their lives. None of it ever prepares you for what this feels like right now. And I want to give you hope and possibility for your future. And I can only do that by encouraging you to be present with this process right now, because it's the shittiest process you'll ever go through your entire life. And you've got to hear this part. You can survive this. You must survive this. You will. You can. You must. For your children, for your family, for your community, for the very fact that you are still here and you still have a purpose. You don't have to know what it is right now. You don't have to be able to conceive of it. You don't even have to be able to get out of bed or go to bed and sleep. I don't know what this is like for you right now, but I know what it was like for me. I know what it was like for tons and tons of my clients. You're not alone. You're going to have lots of people around you. And if you're in the public eye, you're going to have lots of people around you for some time to come. And as a matter of fact, if you're in the public eye in any kind of way, it's going to be even harder because you have to hold the mantle now in the public eye because this person meant something to so many other people. They will always turn to you to represent them. And it's going to be even more challenging for you to continue to live your life and move forward. We look at Jackie Kennedy Onassis, right? She did go on to have another life. She did go on to love again after her horrendous tragedy. Okay, she's a very public figure. You think, how could somebody come back from that? We all saw what happened to Kennedy. Now we can watch what happened to Kennedy. I wasn't alive then, but some of you were. Your spirit may feel crushed, maybe even destroyed right now. And yes, a part of you died with them. A part of you died with them. But not you as your whole. The part of you that died with them is a part of the egoic self. I don't say that in a negative way, like you're being egoic. What I mean is your sense of identity, who you understand yourself to be in this life. And it's going to take a considerable amount of time for you to understand who you are outside of the context of the marriage and who you understood yourself to be with that person when they were physically here. And if you have to navigate the public eye or a broader community that knew them because of the tragic death, you fortify yourself with a very small core group of people that know you, that knew your husband or your wife, that knew your partner, where you have space and time to grieve, and that you don't put a time limit on it and you don't allow anyone else to define what it's going to be, and that know that no matter what you're doing or feeling right now, whether you feel absolutely insane, whether you feel more clear, than you ever have in your life. Whether you've shed a tear, whether you can't stop crying, none of that matters because this is going to come in waves. And right now, if you're at the beginning of your loss, it's going to come hard, 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 hard. And you're not going to know what's the right thing to do from moment to moment and know that you're not crazy. You've never been through something like this before. And you're not supposed to know how to do it because there's no rational way of thinking that's going to overcome the emotional storm that is within you right now and that you're dealing with your loved ones and with the community and with what you must hold. You've got to be stronger than you've ever imagined yourself to be. And I want to tell you, you have it within you. And when you tell yourself, I can't do this, they tell you this, you can, you will, you must. You can, you will, you must. This is who you're going to find yourself to be now that this tragedy has happened. You're going to come to understand what you're capable of because right now you're walking through hell, and the only way out of hell is through it. If you're open to it, I highly recommend a very good therapist, one-on-one that specializes in grief and loss, traumatic loss, particularly. Don't pick just anyone out of the book. Not everybody can handle what you've been through. Be strategic. Ask for help if you need help finding someone. You are eventually going to be okay, even when you carry a not okay place with you forever. But right now, you're in the beginning. I'm gonna try to paint a rosy picture for your future because you've got to go through this before you can begin to see that light. And right now, you can't imagine how it's never going to feel this awful. And I get that. I've been there. That was my one question. How long is it going to feel like this? How long does this tragedy sit with me? I'm going to tell you, this is just a silly aside. I want to give you an example, personal example. 13 years ago, before I lost my husband, I had taken a break from my career and I was being a stay-at-home mom to take care of our son. And I had a little apron making business on the side. It's a little fun thing I did for craft fairs and things. My husband suddenly died. I stopped making aprons. I used to make bread all the time. I stopped making bread. I hadn't touched a sewing machine or a loaf of homemade bread in over 13 years until the last couple of months. I had a ratty old apron and I decided I can make a better one than the ones I can buy. So I started making aprons and now I have a whole bunch of them. I'm going to sell them. 13 years. Okay. This is just a grief response. This is a trauma response. There's different things going on in my life. And this is a tiny little example. So I don't want you to hear, oh God, I'll never be able to do anything for 13 years. What I want you to hear is that there's ways of defining yourself and understanding yourself that you had just before your spouse died. Now there's going to be a new way of defining yourself. And there may be some things that you leave behind, some things you imagine you'll never revisit. I didn't think I'd ever touch a sewing machine again. I didn't even do it out of deliberate rejection. It was just, I had zero desire for it anymore. Zero. And maybe it was an avoidance thing, wanting to avoid the person or things that I did when I was living that life so I could consciously rebuild something. But I enjoyed it. So I found room in my life recently that I wanted to enjoy that again. You're going to come to your own new sense of self in your own timing and know that pieces of you may be left forever, frozen in time. And at the same time, there'll be parts of you that grow and develop that you cannot even fathom yet. And that those pieces and parts of you that need to develop will slowly grow like a little plant, and your job is to water them with your intention and your attention to what's coming up in this moment. Means if you're sad, if you're angry, if you need to take action, if you need to stay in bed, if you need to tell the world to F off, I can't talk to any of you right now, that you allow yourself to do that. All of this is about allowing, okay? The hardest part to do is to allow, because everything is chaos and the person will want to try to control as much as they can. And there's very little you can control for. So you have to narrow it down to the tiny things that you can, and you've got to delegate things to other people that are delegatable. And allowing yourself to grieve with family and knowing that it's okay to cry with your kids, cry with other family. You don't have to hold a stoic. I can handle it all, because this isn't something anybody can handle. It's something that you survive and exist through. It's a war. But the thing is, you will come out on the other end of this war, and you will live with the scars of it, and you will heal in time. But for today, your job is to stay focused in love for your beloved that's now crossed over. You stay focused and grounded in love for yourself, and you honor where you're at today. And you don't expect it to be anything other than it is. You honor and you stay grounded and rooted in love for your children and your family, and you allow that to keep you going. And you put up very strict boundaries around you to protect yourself, because this is the one thing I'm going to end with. Grief is like a ball in a basket. And when you first had this loss, especially when it's a traumatic loss like this, it takes up all the room. There's no room for anything else but the grief. So when you can't sleep, you can't think, you can't act, you can't do any of these things, you're not crazy. You've had a traumatic loss. There's no room for anything else. So you've got 5 minutes for something that you're doing pretty good. As time goes by, that basket gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the ball has more room to move around. But honey, the ball always stays the same size. Even when the space around the loss is a house or a park, the ball is still the same size. So don't expect it to be something that it's not. You are strong, you are resilient. And being strong and resilient doesn't mean you don't feel the grief and the trauma and the tragedy of this down to your very core, and that you don't feel crushed. The fact is that you wake up and you take the next step and you do the next thing that needs doing while you're carrying the enormity of what this is for you. That's strength, even when you choose to stay in bed because you just can't today. That's not weakness, that's recovery. You honor yourself first, because you can, you will, you must.